to go. And this is what many startup companies, biomed, biotech are doing. Israel has, a culture for that. We, as a hospital, as, medical organization that will have the data, the patient, the physician, the facility, are an integral part, and this is what we are doing in the Innovation Center of the Tel Aviv Medical Center. And we are looking ahead to the future to make it more available to many other diseases.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us. You're going to stay right here, right by our side. We need your brain. Asaf Shiloni is CEO of Kadimastem and an expert in cell therapy. Kadimastem is a leading cell therapy company developing a treatment for ALS and a cure for ALS, and a cure for diabetes. Now we have a question for you.
Sure.
Let's start with your pathologist and CEO. Hold on one moment. Tell us about your company and the therapy that you're developing.
Okay, so Kadimastem is one of the leading Israeli cell therapy companies, founded more than 10 years ago. The company was founded with the mission of developing life-saving treatments using stem cells. Just in a nutshell about stem cells are the cells in their basic form, initial form, when they have no specific purpose. And at Kadimastem, we know how to expand those cells, which is critical for cell therapy, so we can have as much cells as needed for the treatment. And we have the technology of differentiation of cells. We can take stem cells, differentiate them into any cell type, if it's blood cells, heart cells, liver cells, brain cells. In the case of Kadimastem, we focus on 2 cell types. One of them are astrocytes, which are the cells that are found in the brain. So these are kind of brain cells, and we use those for treatment of ALS. The second cell type are insulin-producing cells, and based on those cells, we're developing what will be the treatment for diabetes. The research comes from the lab of Michel Ravel, Professor Ravel. He is the founder of the company, Professor of Emeritus from the Weizmann Institute, and he is a winner of the Israeli Prize for developing a blockbuster drug called Rebif, which was sold to Serono, now a part of Merck Serono, and 20 years after, it's still selling for more than $1.2 billion. So with the vision of somebody like Professor Ravel that knows how to bring technologies into action, Kadimastem is now focusing on our 2 products, astrocytes and insulin-producing cells for ALS and diabetes.
Thank you for explaining that. Now, describe to us your ALS program, please.
So first of all, ALS is a deadly disease, and patients suffering from ALS, their neurons are losing function and are dying, and mainly the motor neurons, so losing control over the muscles. And we are today there is no treatment for this disease, and we're in communication with patients, patient family, patient advocates. We hear them crying on a daily basis, asking us to come with a clinical trial, with a cure. And what we do in Kadimastem, we take our stem cell, expand them to have a lot of them, and then we differentiate them towards astrocytes. Those astrocytes are the cells that are in charge of providing the right environment for the neurons to allow them to thrive. And we showed in our clinical trial, first of all, in the preclinical trial, we showed that it can even stop the disease in animals. And then we moved last year, we did a small-scale clinical trial at Hadassah Hospital. It was mainly a phase 1/2A for safety purposes, and we proved that the treatment is safe. Secondly, we were pleased to see that those astrocytes in the patients were able to slow down the progression of the disease for a period of a few months. And we are now planning our clinical trial. We're in communication with the FDA towards a clinical trial that we're hoping to do next year. And we are hoping to bring a positive message to the market of the suffering ALS patients that right now have no treatment in hand.
Well, that's encouraging. Next up, we want to talk about your cure for diabetes. How do you plan to tackle that?
So diabetes, it's a different story. It's a disease, almost a pandemic, affecting hundreds of millions of patients globally. Many of them are suffering from type 1 diabetes, where the immune system is attacking their insulin-producing cells, and they can produce insulin, the level of glucose spikes, or glucagon, or glucose spikes, or low level of glucose, And what's happening is due to those glucose spikes, those patients are suffering from severe health issues. What we do at Kadimastem in order to eliminate the need for a daily monitoring level of glucose and daily injection of insulin, what we do at Kadimastem, we're using the same stem cells, and this time we differentiate them to insulin-producing cells. We call them islets because they are like the islets found in the pancreas. So we take those super pancreases and we encapsulate them to protect them from the immune system. And once we encapsulate those beta cells, we plan to implant them into patients like we've done with our clinical studies and in the preclinical studies in animals. And we showed in the preclinical studies that we can maintain healthy level of glucose in diabetic animals. Now we are in communication with the FDA towards clinical studies in humans, and the aim is for those implants to basically act as mini pancreases and monitor the level of the glucose of the patients. And for the first time, cell therapy is going to be actually curing patients. We've seen a lot of treatments, a lot of cosmetics coming out of stem cell therapy. This is the first time that sick patients will be cured with cells. So that's magic.
Unbelievable. What is up next for Kadimastem?
So Kadimastem is now facing the clinical. We are, hearing the patients that are striving for a cure or a treatment for ALS, and we are praying and hoping that our path with the FDA will be as fast as possible. Those processes are long, but we have a mission. Our employees are waking every day knowing that they are doing something magical, helping patients, and the company was founded by a passionate person that wants to change the world. So we are hoping that to be able to bring a good message to the ALS patients, and the next thing would be involve pharma companies and strategic partners in taking our diabetes program to the market.
Thank you so much for your work and for your company, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, now, Professor Gamzu, we're coming back to you, and we have a question. What is the future of medicine going to look like in 10 or 20 years down the road, and what will we achieve thanks to bioengineering and cell therapies?
Just amazing to see what Gamida Cell and these companies, these great ideas. We tend to think and to educate ourselves to do the training in silos, like life sciences, medicine, chemistry, engineering, physicists. These are silos that are on the same spectrum. We have to take a challenge and think about in convergence. Bioengineering is taking engineering and biology all together. But you know what? They are connected. We can predict the structure of a molecule. We can predict the next variant of COVID using biology, our understanding in cell, and then using engineering. The physics, the mathematics are all connected together. So the future is convergence. We cannot go ahead again with silos and silos and silos. We have great minds. We have great culture. We have great culture of high-tech, of startup companies.